Hey folks, I'm Ominous Hour. Grab a snack and get cozy. Your nap time is approaching. In late August 2016, a sinister panic gripped South Carolina as rumors spread of clowns luring children into the woods. A group of teenagers, Liam, Sarah, Jake, and Mia, decided to confront the tales. One fateful night, they ventured deep into the dark forest, laughter echoing off the trees until it was swallowed by an oppressive silence. In a clearing, they encountered a clown, its vibrant colors jarring against the darkness. "Come play with us," it beckoned, voice smooth but filled with malevolence. Panic gripped them and they turned to run, but Sarah stumbled, twisting her ankle with a sickening crack. "Sarah!" Liam shouted, rushing back to her as the clown moved closer, its laughter echoing in the night. "Leave her! Run!" Mia screamed, dragging Jake away as the clown's eyes glinted with a predatory hunger. They managed to escape the woods, pulling Sarah along, but she cried out in pain, her injury severe. As they reached the park, breathless and terrified, they dialed 911. Within minutes, an ambulance arrived, lights flashing in the darkness. Paramedics rushed to Sarah, assessing her injury. "Keep her still," one instructed, but her screams mixed with the distant, eerie laughter still echoing from the woods. As they loaded Sarah into the ambulance, the friends caught their breath, knowing they had to alert the police. Officers arrived, determined to track down the clowns. "Stay here," one officer instructed, his voice grave. "We'll handle this." He and his partner headed toward the tree line, flashlights cutting through the dark. Meanwhile, inside the ambulance, Sarah's pain intensified, and fear hung thick in the air. They could hear the police radio crackle with urgent commands, punctuated by the chilling laughter that seemed to be getting closer. Minutes later, the radio went silent. Liam's heart raced as he glanced toward the woods, anxiety gnawing at him. "Where are they?" he whispered. Suddenly, a voice crackled back to life, filled with static. "We need backup. Clowns. Attacking." The transmission cut off abruptly. The paramedics exchanged worried glances, and the friends felt a chill. They stepped out of the ambulance, instinctively drawn toward the darkness. A tense silence enveloped them as they approached the tree line, unease creeping over them. Without warning, a figure burst from the shadows, one of the officers, bloodied and frantic. "Run!" he shouted, collapsing at their feet. "They're not just clowns." Before they could react, the other officer appeared, but something was off. His eyes were wide with terror, his uniform torn. "It's a trap!" he yelled. "They're not human." In that moment, a horde of clowns emerged from the trees, laughter echoing like a twisted symphony. The friends turned to flee, but the officers were caught in a brutal struggle. Liam looked back just as one of the clowns lunged at the officer, its grin widening as it struck. "No!" Liam screamed, but it was too late. The officer fell, the forest swallowing his cry as the laughter grew louder, more frenzied. Heart pounding, they ran back to the ambulance, fear propelling them. The paramedics had vanished, leaving behind only the flickering lights and the haunting echoes of laughter. "Get in! Go!" Mia yelled as they piled into the vehicle. Jake fumbled with the keys, hands shaking. They needed to get away, but the clowns were closing in, their figures dancing in the shadows. As the engine roared to life, Liam glanced back at the woods, the nightmare unfolding behind them. The last thing he saw was the clown's twisted smile before they sped away, leaving behind chaos and darkness. But the laughter followed them, a chilling reminder that they had awakened something terrifying. In the distance, the echoes of sirens mixed with the clown's haunting calls, the game far from over. The frenzy had just begun, and it wouldn't stop until it claimed them all. The next morning, the small town of South Carolina was shaken. News reports filled the airwaves, detailing the bizarre events of the previous night. A police officer was dead, and reports of clowns continued to spread, each story more chilling than the last. Liam, Sarah, Jake, and Mia Huddled in Liam's basement, fear lingering like a fog. Sarah's injury kept her confined to a wheelchair, but her spirit was unbroken. "What do we do now?" Mia asked, her voice trembling. "They could come back." Liam paced the room, his mind racing. "We need to figure out what they want. Why are they doing this?" Jake, sitting on the floor, rubbed his temples. "It's not just a prank anymore. This is serious. Those clowns are dangerous." Suddenly, the sound of sirens pierced the air, causing everyone to jump. Liam rushed to the window, peering out to see police cars swarming the area, lights flashing. "They're searching for them," he said, his voice filled with hope. But as the sirens faded into the distance, a different noise emerged, a low, rhythmic tapping at the basement door. The friends exchanged nervous glances. "Who could that be?" Mia whispered. "Stay here," Liam instructed, gripping a baseball bat. He crept toward the door, heart pounding, and opened it just a crack. A flash of color caught his eye, and he saw a clown standing outside, face painted in grotesque delight. "Come play with us," it beckoned, voice dripping with mock cheer. Liam slammed the door shut, panic rising. "It's here! The clown's here!" They all huddled together, fear coursing through them. "We have to call the police," Sarah shouted, trying to reach for her phone, but it had fallen from the table during the chaos. The tapping grew louder, insistent, almost desperate. "Let us in," the clown's voice cooed, the words twisting into something sinister. "Why are they doing this?" Jake whispered, fear evident in his eyes. "They want to scare us," Liam replied, clenching the bat. "We can't let them win. We need to fight back." Mia, trembling, grabbed a nearby kitchen knife. "What if they come inside?" Before they could answer, the basement door burst open. The clown stood there, its smile grotesque, eyes gleaming with madness. "Playtime!" it cried, lunging toward them. In a blur of movement, Liam swung the bat, striking the clown in the side. It stumbled but quickly recovered, laughter spilling from its lips, twisted and deranged. "You think that will stop me?" The friends scrambled to the other side of the room, adrenaline coursing through them. "We need to get out," Mia shouted. They dashed past the clown, who spun around, blocking the only exit. But as they reached the far wall, Liam noticed a small window, partially open. "We can fit through there," he shouted. With the clown closing in, they rushed toward the window. Liam pushed Sarah through first, then Jake and Mia. Just as he was about to climb through, the clown grabbed his ankle, its grip like iron. "Where do you think you're going?" it sneered, pulling him back into the basement. "Help!" Liam yelled, struggling against its grasp. But just then the sound of sirens returned, louder this time, drowning out his cries. The clown's expression shifted, irritation flashing across its face. "Not again!" it hissed, releasing Liam as it turned to face the noise. Seizing the opportunity, Liam scrambled through the window and landed hard on the grass outside. He turned just in time to see the clown retreating into the shadows, its laughter fading as the sirens grew closer. "Go! They're coming!" he shouted, and the friends dashed toward the street, adrenaline fueling their escape. Within moments, police cars flooded the area, officers jumping out with flashlights and weapons drawn. "Where are they?" one officer yelled, scanning the woods. Liam and his friends hurried toward them, fear still coursing through their veins. "They're in the woods! The clowns!" Liam cried. "Stay back," an officer ordered as they moved cautiously toward the tree line. The air was thick with tension, each step a reminder of the horror they had faced. As the officers entered the woods, the laughter echoed again, chilling and unnerving. Moments later, a shout rang out, followed by chaos. "Get back! They're everywhere!" Liam and his friends watched in horror as several officers stumbled back, faces pale with fear. One officer fell, clutching his chest, a clown emerging from the darkness behind him. "No!" Mia screamed, but the clown lunged, its laughter mingling with the officer's cries. Panic erupted as the other officers fought to subdue the attacker, but the clowns seemed to multiply, emerging from every shadow. The scene descended into chaos, screams piercing the air. "Run!" Liam shouted, grabbing Sarah's wheelchair. "We can't stay here!" They bolted down the street, hearts racing, knowing they had to escape the madness. As they ran, the sounds of the chaos faded behind them, but the memory of the clowns remained seared in their minds. Once they reached a safe distance, they stopped to catch their breath, panting heavily. "What do we do now?" Sarah asked, eyes wide with fear. "We need to gather everyone," Liam said, determination burning in his eyes. "We have to warn the town. This isn't over." With the sun setting behind them, the friends knew they were facing a nightmare that wouldn't end easily. The clowns were out there, lurking, waiting for their next chance to strike, and they were determined to put an end to the terror that had invaded their lives. The next day, Liam, Sarah, Jake, and Mia gathered at Liam's house, the weight of their previous night's escape hanging heavily in the air. They had shared their plans, discussing how to warn the town and prepare for the impending threat. But the reality of their situation gnawed at them. Time was running out, and the clowns were still out there. As evening approached, shadows crept into the corners of the living room, making it feel more claustrophobic. They set up a makeshift strategy session, their nerves taut as they reviewed their plan one last time. "We need to stay vigilant," Liam said, his voice steady. "If they come back, we need to be ready." Just then the lights flickered. "Not again!" Mia exclaimed, glancing nervously at the window. "Maybe it's just a storm," Jake suggested, though he didn't sound convinced. The atmosphere grew heavy as the storm clouds rolled in. The wind howled outside, creating an eerie backdrop to their anxious chatter. Suddenly, the power cut out completely, plunging them into darkness. The faint sound of laughter echoed outside, sending chills down their spines. "Everyone stay close," Liam ordered, pulling out his phone for light. They huddled together, the glow illuminating their worried faces. "We should check the doors," Sarah suggested, her voice shaking. "Make sure everything's locked." They moved cautiously through the house, Liam leading the way. As they reached the front door, Jake peered out through the peephole. "I don't see anything. It's quiet. Too quiet." Just then, a loud bang resonated from the back of the house. Everyone froze, fear flooding the room. "What was that?" Mia whispered. "Probably just the wind," Liam said, though his voice betrayed his doubt. They cautiously approached the back door, the darkness thickening around them. Suddenly, the door swung open with a creak, and a figure burst through. The clown from the night before, its face twisted in a maniacal grin, blood-red lips stretching impossibly wide. "Playtime!" it screeched, laughter spilling from its lips. Panic erupted. Liam swung his phone, illuminating the clown's face. "Get back!" he yelled, but the clown lunged forward, grabbing Sarah by the arm. "Help!" she screamed, struggling against its grip. In a moment of desperation, Jake lunged at the clown, but it sidestepped and he crashed into the wall. The clown's laughter echoed, a dark melody that filled the room with dread. "Let her go!" Liam shouted, swinging his phone like a weapon. The clown laughed, then turned its attention to him, eyes glinting with madness. Suddenly it released Sarah, pushing her away and lunging for Liam. He barely dodged, heart racing as the clown's breath came hot and rancid. But in that chaos they heard a noise, a shuffling from the living room. It was too late. They turned just in time to see the figure of a neighbor, Mr. Thompson, who had come to check on them. "What's going on?" he shouted, stepping into the room, confusion etched on his face. The clown's head snapped toward him, a wild gleam in its eyes. "Another playmate," it cackled. "No!" Liam yelled, but it was too late. The clown lunged, and Mr. Thompson barely had time to react before the clown struck, a sharp knife glinting in the dim light. Get away from him, Sarah screamed, but the clown had already plunged the knife deep into Mr. Thompson's side, a look of twisted delight on its painted face. He gasped, stumbling back, eyes wide with shock and pain. The sight of blood splattered against the walls, and a collective scream erupted from the group. The clown pulled back, laughing hysterically as Mr. Thompson fell to the ground, his body twitching before going still. "No, no, no!" Mia cried, her voice rising in terror as she backed away. Liam stood frozen, horror washing over him. "What have you done?" he shouted at the clown, anger and fear intertwining. The clown turned to them, still laughing, as if relishing their terror. "You can't stop the game," it shrieked, stepping over Mr. Thompson's lifeless body. "Run!" Liam yelled, snapping everyone out of their shock. They sprinted toward the front door, adrenaline pumping as they pushed through the darkness. Outside, the storm raged, wind howling through the trees. They stumbled into the rain, fear driving them forward as they dashed down the street. "We can't just leave him," Jake yelled, but the clowns were closing in. "There's nothing we can do," Sarah shouted, tears streaming down her face. "We have to survive." As they reached the edge of town, they stopped to catch their breath, drenched and trembling. "What do we do now?" Mia asked, desperation etched on her face. "We need to gather everyone again," Liam said, determination hardening in his voice. "We can't let this continue. We need to fight back." But the memory of Mr. Thompson's final moments haunted them, a grim reminder of the stakes they faced. The clowns were no longer just a rumor. They were a deadly reality, and they would stop at nothing to spread their terror. With the storm still raging, they knew they had to come up with a plan, and fast, before more lives were lost to the madness that had descended upon their town. The rain poured relentlessly as Liam, Sarah, Jake, and Mia huddled together at the edge of town, the weight of their fear palpable. The reality of Mr. Thompson's death haunted them, igniting a fire of determination within Liam. They couldn't let the clowns take anyone else. "Where do we go?" Mia asked, her voice shaking. "We can't go home. They'll find us." "Let's head to the old church," Liam suggested. "It's sturdy and has a basement. We can barricade ourselves and figure out a plan." The group nodded, urgency fueling their movements. They navigated through the rain-soaked streets, glancing over their shoulders, terrified the clowns would emerge from the shadows at any moment. When they reached the church, the towering structure loomed above them, its windows dark and foreboding. They pushed through the heavy doors, the sound echoing ominously in the silence. "Stay quiet," Liam whispered, leading them inside. The musty air filled their lungs as they moved cautiously through the dimly lit nave. As they approached the back, they found the entrance to the basement. "This will be our safe haven for now," Liam said, pushing the door open. They descended the stairs, the darkness swallowing them whole. Once inside, they lit a few candles they found, illuminating the damp walls. The atmosphere felt heavy, as if the church itself was mourning. "What do we do next?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Liam took a deep breath, steeling himself. "We need to gather supplies. If the clowns come, we need to be ready to fight back. And we need to warn the others in town." "I can try to contact my parents," Sarah said, pulling out her phone. "If I can reach them, they might be able to get people to help." As Sarah attempted to send a message, the others started searching the basement for anything they could use, tools, anything that could be turned into a weapon. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from above, causing them to freeze. "What was that?" Mia gasped, her eyes wide with fear. "I don't know," Liam replied, tension knotting in his stomach. "But we need to stay quiet." They huddled together, hearts pounding, as the sounds of footsteps echoed above them. The church creaked and groaned, an unsettling reminder of the chaos outside. Then they heard laughter, distorted, mocking laughter. "It's them," Jake whispered, terror in his eyes. "They found us," Liam's mind raced. We need to find a way to barricade the door. Grab anything you can." As they piled heavy boxes against the basement door, the laughter grew louder, accompanied by the sound of footsteps descending the stairs. The group backed away, hearts racing, bracing for the inevitable confrontation. "Let's make a stand," Liam said, gripping a metal pipe he had found. Just then, the door burst open, and a clown stumbled into the basement, its painted face twisted in a grotesque smile. "Playtime's not over," it shrieked, lunging at them. In a split second, Liam swung the pipe, connecting with the clown's head. It fell to the ground with a thud, but more shadows flooded in behind it. "Run!" he yelled, pushing Sarah toward the far corner as Jake and Mia grabbed makeshift weapons. They fought back, striking at the clowns as they poured into the basement. But for everyone they knocked down, more seemed to appear, their laughter echoing through the confined space. "Back to the stairs," Liam shouted, leading the charge. They scrambled up, pushing against the door to escape into the main hall of the church. As they burst through, they found the nave empty, but the storm continued to rage outside. "We need to get to the front entrance," Liam urged. They sprinted toward the massive doors, but as they reached them, they heard a cacophony of laughter behind them. The clowns were coming, filling the church like a nightmarish parade. "Move!" Liam yelled as they pushed through the doors, spilling out into the rain-soaked night. The storm had intensified, but it felt like a protective barrier against the madness. "Where do we go?" Mia shouted over the thunder. "There's a school nearby," Jake pointed down the street. "It might be safer there." They ran as fast as they could, rain pelting them, adrenaline fueling their escape. The laughter of the clowns faded behind them, but the threat was still present, lurking in the shadows. As they reached the school, they dashed inside, slamming the doors shut behind them. "We need to lock this up," Liam shouted, scrambling to find something to barricade the entrance. Once inside, they found themselves in the darkened hallway, lockers lining the walls, the place eerily quiet. "Is anyone else here?" Sarah called out, her voice trembling. Suddenly, they heard a noise, a scuffling sound coming from the gymnasium. They exchanged nervous glances, hearts pounding. "We should check it out," Liam suggested. "There might be other survivors." Cautiously, they made their way toward the gym, the shadows flickering with their candlelight. As they pushed open the door, they were met with an unsettling sight. A group of frightened students huddled together, faces pale and eyes wide with fear. "Are you okay?" Mia asked, relief flooding through her. "We thought we were the only ones left," one girl said, trembling. Before they could speak further, the laughter echoed again, louder this time. The clowns were close, and they could feel the pressure mounting. "We have to stick together," Liam urged, rallying the group. "We need to defend ourselves. If they break through, we fight." The group nodded, determination igniting in their eyes as they gathered makeshift weapons from the gym, basketballs, broomsticks, anything they could use. As they prepared for the inevitable confrontation, Liam's mind raced. They had to find a way to end this madness. "We can't just run and hide forever. We need to find their weakness." "What do you mean?" Jake asked, gripping a basketball. "If we can figure out what they want, maybe we can turn this around," Liam said, looking at the fearful faces surrounding him. "Maybe we can end this once and for all." But before they could discuss further, the gym doors slammed open. Clowns poured in, their laughter echoing off the walls, an army of madness ready to claim their next victims. "Fight!" Liam shouted, raising his weapon as the battle erupted. In that moment, they knew they were no longer just survivors. They were fighters ready to face the nightmare head-on. The gym erupted into chaos as the clowns stormed in, their laughter reverberating like a death knell. Liam stood at the front, gripping the broomstick tightly, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Form a line," he shouted, rallying the group of frightened students. "We have to protect each other." With fear etched on their faces, the students quickly formed a makeshift barrier, weapons raised. As the first clown lunged forward, Liam swung the broomstick with all his might, catching it in the side and sending it sprawling. "Keep pushing them back," Jake yelled, launching a basketball at another clown, hitting it square in the chest. The clown staggered but quickly recovered, its laughter turning maniacal. The gym was filled with the sounds of chaos, screams, laughter, and the clatter of makeshift weapons. Mia swung a volleyball, catching a clown off guard, while Sarah steadied herself in her wheelchair, ready to defend her friends. "Watch the sides!" Liam shouted, eyes darting around the room. Clowns were pouring in from every angle, a relentless tide of madness. As the battle raged on, one clown broke through the line, heading straight for Sarah. "Playtime with the pretty girl," it cackled, reaching for her. "No!" Liam shouted, racing forward. He swung the broomstick, but the clown was too quick, dodging him and grabbing Sarah's wheelchair. In that split second, fear turned into fury. "Get away from her!" Jake yelled, throwing a basketball at the clown, hitting it squarely in the face. The clown released Sarah, stunned by the impact, and Liam seized the opportunity, pushing the wheelchair back. "Are you okay?" he asked, breathless. "I'm fine. Just keep fighting," she replied, determination shining in her eyes. The group regrouped, focusing on the clowns that were now surrounding them. They fought back with everything they had. Broomsticks swung, basketballs flew, and the clowns continued to advance, their laughter growing louder, more frenzied. Suddenly, the gym doors slammed shut, trapping them inside. "They're trying to corner us," Mia screamed, panic rising. "Stay together," Liam yelled, directing everyone toward the center of the gym. "We can't let them divide us." Just then, a loud crash echoed from the back, and the wall began to shake. "What now?" Jake shouted, looking toward the source of the noise. In a moment of horror, they realized the clowns were breaking through the walls, clawing their way in from the outside. Dust and debris rained down as a giant clown burst through, its size dwarfing the others, its grin wide and menacing. "Look out!" Mia screamed as the giant clown lunged forward, its massive hands reaching for them. Liam acted quickly, grabbing a heavy basketball trophy from a nearby shelf. "We have to slow it down," he shouted, hurling it at the clown. The trophy shattered against its face, momentarily stunning it. "Now," he urged, "everyone throw whatever you can." The students rallied, launching anything they could find, gym bags, water bottles, anything that could serve as a weapon. The giant clown staggered back, but its laughter only grew more maniacal. "Enough games," it bellowed, shaking the walls of the gym. "Fall back," Liam shouted as they regrouped at the far side. They needed a plan. The clowns were relentless, and they couldn't keep this up forever. "Maybe we can trap them," Sarah suggested, pointing to the gymnasium's side doors. "If we can lure them outside, we can lock them out." Liam nodded, formulating a plan. "We'll draw them toward the side door, then we slam it shut. But we have to be quick. Ready?" With a deep breath, he shouted, "Hey! Over here!" He waved his arms, catching the attention of the clowns. The giant clown turned, its focus shifting. "More playmates," it howled, and the rest of the clowns followed suit, drawn toward the sound. "Now!" Liam yelled as they sprinted toward the side door, the clowns hot on their heels. They reached the door and flung it open, adrenaline pumping. "Go, go, go!" Jake shouted, shoving the last of the students through. As the last of them slipped outside, they quickly turned back, ready to slam the door shut. The clowns were just steps behind, but they managed to shut the door in time, locking it with a loud click. "Did we do it?" Mia asked, breathless. "For now," Liam replied, looking through the small window in the door. The clowns were agitated, banging on the door, but for the moment they were trapped. "Now what?" Sarah panted, her heart racing. "We need to barricade it," Liam said. "Find anything we can use." The group scrambled to push gym equipment against the door, benches, chairs, anything heavy. As they secured their makeshift barricade, the sound of the clowns pounding on the door echoed ominously. "We need a way to fight back," Liam said, eyes narrowing. "We can't just keep hiding. If we're going to end this, we need to find their weakness." "What if we use their own madness against them?" Jake suggested, looking around. "They thrive on fear, right? What if we turn the tables?" Liam considered it, heart pounding. "You mean, make them afraid of us?" "Exactly," Jake replied. "If we can create a distraction, we might be able to scare them off." "How do we do that?" Mia asked, glancing nervously at the door. "Maybe we can use the school's PA system," Sarah suggested, her eyes lighting up. "If we can blast loud noises, it might confuse them." Liam nodded, the plan forming in his mind. "Okay, let's do it. We'll create a diversion and then make a run for it." They quickly made their way to the school's office where the PA system was located. Liam found the intercom and hit the switch, static filling the air. "Hello?" he called out, voice shaking. "Is anyone there?" Suddenly, the sound of the clowns outside grew louder, their laughter a cacophony of madness. "They're coming!" Mia shouted, fear creeping back in. "Just a second," Liam replied, focusing on the controls. "We need to make this loud." He turned up the volume and pressed a few buttons, then leaned into the microphone. "Attention, clowns! This is your worst nightmare." He cranked up the volume and pressed play on a track of chaotic sounds, screaming, sirens, and animal roars. The noise erupted through the gym, filling the air with confusion and chaos. Outside, the clowns paused, their laughter faltering as the overwhelming noise blasted through the doors. "Now!" Liam yelled, grabbing the others. "Let's go!" They burst out of the office, dashing back toward the gym's side door. As they pushed it open, they saw the clowns disoriented, reeling from the loud sounds. "Run!" Jake shouted as they sprinted past the clowns, who were momentarily confused. They bolted down the hallway, hearts racing. "Where do we go?" Mia gasped. "Back to the front entrance," Liam urged, leading the charge. "We have to get out." They reached the front doors, flinging them open to the stormy night. The rain continued to pour, but they didn't stop. They dashed toward the nearest street, desperate to escape the madness. But as they ran, they could hear the clowns regaining their composure, laughter rising behind them once again. "They're coming!" Mia cried. "Keep moving!" Liam yelled, adrenaline propelling them forward. They had to get to safety. They had to end this nightmare once and for all. The storm raged on, but within the chaos, a spark of hope ignited. They were no longer victims. They were warriors, ready to fight against the darkness that threatened to consume them. Together, they would face whatever horrors awaited them. The relentless rain hammered down as Liam, Sarah, Jake, and Mia sprinted through the streets, the sounds of manic laughter echoing behind them. They veered around corners, adrenaline fueling their escape, but the clowns were relentless, their voices mingling with the storm. "We can't keep running forever," Jake panted, glancing over his shoulder. "We need a plan." "There's the old hardware store," Sarah shouted, pointing ahead. "We can barricade ourselves inside and find something to fight back with." "Good idea," Liam replied, heart pounding. "Let's go." They raced toward the dimly lit store, flinging open the door and rushing inside. The smell of metal and wood filled the air, and shadows danced in the corners. They quickly locked the door behind them, but they knew it wouldn't hold for long. "Grab anything you can use," Liam instructed, scanning the aisles. They scattered, each searching for potential weapons, hammers, nails, anything that could help them. Jake found a crowbar and hefted it, testing its weight. "This should work," he said, determination in his eyes. Mia clutched a heavy flashlight, its beam piercing the darkness. "I'll blind them if they get too close." "Good thinking," Liam replied, finding a sturdy hammer. "We need to set up defenses. Let's barricade the front and back doors." As they worked, the laughter of the clowns grew louder outside, echoing through the streets. "They're coming," Sarah said, her voice quaking. "Just a little longer," Liam urged, stacking crates against the back door. "We can do this." Suddenly, the front door rattled violently. "They're here!" Jake shouted, grabbing the crowbar tightly. "Get ready," Liam called out, his heart racing. They formed a line at the entrance, weapons raised, breaths held as the door shook under the weight of the clowns. With a thunderous crash, the door burst open, and a wave of clowns flooded inside, their faces twisted in manic glee. "Play time!" they screeched, eyes glinting with insanity. Liam swung his hammer, striking the nearest clown. It stumbled back, but more quickly took its place, their laughter drowning out the chaos. "Keep fighting," Sarah yelled, shining the flashlight into their faces, temporarily blinding them. The clowns reeled back, but their numbers were overwhelming. They moved as a grotesque, chaotic horde, clawing and lunging, determined to drag the teenagers into their twisted game. "Retreat to the back!" Liam shouted, guiding the others toward the rear of the store. They pushed through the clutter, fighting off the clowns with every ounce of strength. As they reached the back room, they quickly barricaded the door with shelves and tools, breathing heavily as they leaned against the makeshift barricade. "Are they gone?" Mia gasped, her voice shaky. "For now," Liam replied, glancing through the small window in the back door. "But we need to keep moving. We can't stay here." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the front of the store, followed by the familiar, maniacal laughter. "They're coming through the front," Jake shouted, panic rising. "Think. We need a distraction," Sarah said, looking around. "What about the fire alarms?" Liam's eyes lit up. "Great idea. If we can set off the alarms, it might confuse them and give us a chance to escape." "Where are the alarms?" Mia asked, scanning the room. "Over there." Liam pointed to a small panel on the wall. "If I can get to it, I can trigger it manually." "I'll cover you," Jake said, gripping the crowbar tightly. "Just make it quick." Liam nodded, steeling himself. He dashed toward the panel, Jake standing guard, ready to strike at any approaching clowns. As Liam reached for the alarm, the door began to shudder violently. "Now or never," Jake yelled as the door splintered. Liam yanked the alarm lever down, and a deafening siren filled the room. Red lights began flashing, illuminating the chaos as the clowns paused, confusion etched across their painted faces. "Let's go," Liam shouted, racing back to the others. As the clowns regained their bearings, they shrieked in anger, but the loud siren threw them into disarray. The teenagers dashed toward the side exit, pushing through the door just as the clowns began to recover. Outside, the rain had intensified, creating a slick surface beneath their feet. They raced down the alley, hearts pounding, the blaring siren echoing behind them. "Where to now?" Sarah asked, breathless. "There's a police station not far from here," Liam replied, desperation in his voice. "If we can make it there, we can get help." As they sprinted down the alley, they could hear the clown's laughter following them, distorted and taunting. "We're right behind you," one clown screeched, sending chills down their spines. "We have to hurry," Jake urged, pushing forward. They turned a corner, spotting the dim lights of the police station in the distance. But as they ran, they realized it wasn't just the clowns that threatened them. A sense of dread hung in the air, a feeling that they were being watched. As they approached the station, they skidded to a halt. The front door was ajar, and an eerie silence enveloped the building. "Is anyone in there?" Mia called out, but her voice echoed emptily. "Stay alert," Liam warned, gripping his hammer tightly. "We can't let our guard down." They entered cautiously, weapons raised, the siren still blaring in the distance. The lobby was dark, papers strewn across the floor, and the desk was overturned. "It looks abandoned," Jake whispered, unease settling in. "Let's check the back," Liam said, moving toward a hallway. They advanced slowly, shadows flickering in the corners of their vision. As they approached the back room, a low chuckle reverberated through the air. "You thought you could escape?" The teenagers froze, fear washing over them. The voice was familiar yet distorted. Detective Harris, the town's chief of police, stood in the shadows, his uniform tattered and stained. "Detective," Mia whispered, taking a hesitant step forward. "Too late for that," he hissed, stepping into the light, revealing a painted clown face smeared with blood. "You've walked right into their trap." "What happened to you?" Liam asked, horrified. "The clowns are stronger than you know. They've taken over," he replied, laughter bubbling beneath his words. "And now you're all part of the show." With that, the lights flickered and clowns began to emerge from the shadows behind him, circling the group like vultures. "No!" Liam shouted, realization dawning. "We have to get out." The group turned to flee, but the clowns moved quickly, blocking their exit. Panic surged as they backed against the wall, trapped. "Welcome to your final act," Detective Harris cackled, his eyes wild. As the clowns closed in, Liam's mind raced. They had fought hard to get this far, and they weren't going to give up now. "Together," he shouted, "we can take them." With renewed resolve, they charged forward, wielding their makeshift weapons. The clowns lunged, but the teenagers struck back, a flurry of fists, hammers, and determination. "Fight!" Liam yelled as chaos erupted around them. But as the darkness threatened to close in, they knew this battle was far from over. They had to fight not just for their lives, but for the very soul of their town. The nightmare wasn't finished yet, and the final showdown was just beginning. The chaos erupted around them as Liam and his friends fought with everything they had. The clowns, their faces twisted in maniacal glee, lunged forward, desperate to claim their prey. The teenagers moved in sync, desperation fueling their determination. "Back to back!" Liam shouted, positioning himself between Sarah and Mia. "Don't let them surround us." They formed a tight circle, using their weapons to push back against the relentless tide of clowns. The sounds of laughter mixed with the sirens still blaring in the distance, creating an unsettling symphony of chaos. Detective Harris watched from the shadows, his painted smile unwavering. "You really think you can fight them? They feed on fear, and you've given them plenty." "Shut up!" Jake yelled, swinging the crowbar at a clown that lunged at him. He connected with a sickening thud, sending the creature crashing into a stack of overturned desks. As the clowns pressed forward, Liam spotted a heavy metal rod lying on the ground. "We can use that," he shouted, grabbing it and thrusting it toward a clown that was trying to break through their defenses. With a swift motion, he knocked the clown back, and it tumbled into a pile of equipment, momentarily stunned. "Keep moving," he urged, leading the group toward the back exit. But Detective Harris stepped forward, his grin widening. "You won't escape that easily." He lunged, but Liam swung the rod, knocking him off balance. "Go! Now!" Liam yelled, and they darted past him toward the back door. The clowns were closing in, but they pushed through the exit, spilling into the alley behind the police station. The rain poured down, washing away the chaos of the night, but the danger was far from over. They needed to regroup and find a way to turn the tide. "Where do we go?" Mia gasped, breathless and soaked to the bone. "There's an old factory nearby," Sarah suggested. "It's abandoned, but it might give us some cover." "Let's head there," Liam replied, glancing back to see the clowns pouring out of the station, led by Harris, whose laughter echoed ominously. They sprinted through the alley, heart pounding, until they reached the factory. Its rusted doors hung slightly ajar, an inviting darkness beckoning them inside. "Stay close," Liam urged, leading the way into the depths of the building. The air was stale, filled with the scent of rust and decay. Once inside, they quickly shut the doors behind them, the sound of clowns laughing in the distance growing fainter. "What now?" Jake asked, catching his breath. "We need to find something to defend ourselves," Liam said, scanning the shadows. and we need to figure out what their weakness is. As they crept deeper into the factory, the darkness swallowed them whole. Mia raised her flashlight, illuminating a cluttered space filled with old machinery and tools. "Over there," she said, pointing to a pile of scrap metal. They gathered around the pile, quickly rifling through it. Liam found a few heavy metal bars and distributed them among his friends. "These should help us defend ourselves," he said. Suddenly the laughter echoed again, now closer than before. "They're coming," Sarah cried, panic rising in her voice. "Let's set a trap," Liam suggested, glancing around. "We can use the machinery to our advantage." They quickly formulated a plan, positioning the heavy machinery near the entrance and creating a makeshift barricade with the scrap metal. As they worked, the sounds of the clowns grew louder, their laughter reverberating through the factory. "Are we ready?" Liam asked, heart racing. The others nodded, gripping their weapons tightly. Just then, the door burst open and the clowns flooded in, their painted faces twisted in madness. "Playtime again!" they screeched, rushing toward the group. "Now!" Liam yelled, and they pushed against the barricade, sending machinery crashing into the clowns. The first wave of clowns stumbled back, but more kept coming, relentless in their pursuit. "Hold them off!" Liam shouted, swinging his metal bar at the nearest clown, connecting with a sickening crunch. Mia shined her flashlight into their faces, momentarily blinding them. "Keep pushing," she yelled, fighting to keep them at bay. The clowns shrieked in frustration, stumbling over the debris as they tried to regain their footing. But the teenagers were determined, fighting back with every ounce of strength they had. As the chaos unfolded, Liam noticed a flickering light above, an old, rusted sign that had been rigged to sway precariously. "If we can knock that sign down, it might take out a few of them," he shouted, pointing. "Jake, help me," Liam called, rushing toward the sign. They climbed onto a stack of crates, trying to reach it while keeping an eye on the advancing clowns. "Almost there," Jake said, straining as he pulled at the chain holding the sign in place. "Just a little more," Liam urged. The sign creaked ominously as the clowns closed in, their laughter becoming deafening. With one final pull, the chain snapped, and the sign came crashing down, smashing into the clowns below. The loud crash echoed through the factory, and chaos erupted as the clowns stumbled, their laughter turning to screams. "Now's our chance," Sarah shouted. "Let's get out of here." They scrambled down from the crates and sprinted toward the exit, pushing past the fallen clowns and debris. As they neared the door, Liam turned back to see Detective Harris regaining his composure, fury etched across his painted face. "You can't escape," he bellowed, shaking his fist. "Watch out," Jake shouted, just as a clown lunged at them from the side. They barely dodged the attack, bursting through the door and into the rain-soaked night. Outside, the storm raged, but the sense of urgency propelled them forward. They dashed down the street, searching for a safe haven. "Where now?" Mia asked, panting heavily. "There's a community center not far from here," Sarah suggested. "We can barricade ourselves there and call for help." "Let's go," Liam urged, leading the way. They navigated the dark streets, glancing back to ensure the clowns weren't on their tails. As they approached the community center, the door was locked tight, but they could see lights flickering inside. "We need to get in," Liam said, looking for an entry point. "There," Jake pointed to a window at the side. "We can climb through." They quickly hoisted each other up, scrambling inside one by one until they were all safely inside. The center was eerily quiet, the flickering lights casting long shadows on the walls. "Now what?" Mia whispered, looking around. "We need to find a phone and call for help," Liam said, moving toward the front desk. But as he reached for the phone, a chilling sound echoed through the building, a low, mocking laugh. "Not so fast!" Detective Harris's voice slithered through the darkness. The group froze, dread filling the air. "How did he get here?" Jake whispered, fear creeping into his voice. Run, Liam shouted, and they dashed deeper into the building as the laughter grew louder, echoing through the halls. They needed a way to end this. As they raced through the dimly lit corridors, a plan began to form in Liam's mind. They had to confront Harris and the clowns, face their fears head-on. Split up, Liam yelled. We'll draw them away, then regroup. Mia and Sarah nodded, quickly moving toward one end of the building while Liam and Jake headed the other way. As they maneuvered through the halls, Liam felt a surge of courage. They couldn't keep running. It was time to fight back. Jake, we need to find a way to trap them, Liam said, determination hardening his resolve. Right. If we can lure them into one room, we can barricade the door, Jake replied, glancing around for an appropriate spot. They quickly formulated a plan, using their knowledge of the center to create an ambush. They found a large room at the end of the hall and prepared to lure the clowns in. On my count, Liam said, heart pounding. 1, 2, 3, they shouted, drawing the clowns toward them, and when Detective Harris and a group of clowns entered the room, Liam and Jake slammed the door shut behind them. Barricade it, Liam yelled, pushing heavy furniture against the door as the clowns pounded on the other side. Now what? Jake panted, adrenaline surging through him. Now we fight, Liam replied, readying his weapon. We face them together. With the clowns trapped inside, the group steeled themselves, knowing they had one chance to reclaim their town and end the terror that had consumed their lives. As the clowns continued to pound on the door, Liam took a deep breath. This ends tonight, he said, resolute. They were ready to confront the nightmare, and they would fight until the very end. The clowns pounded against the barricaded door, their manic laughter echoing in the confined space. Liam and Jake steadied themselves, adrenaline coursing through their veins as they prepared for the confrontation. We have to hold them off until we can find a way to get help, Liam said, gripping the metal bar tightly. Let's take them down, one by one. Right, Jake replied, positioning himself near the door, eyes wide with fear but steely with resolve. As the clowns continued to hammer against the door, the laughter morphed into a cacophony of shrieks and taunts. You think you can trap us? You're just toys in our game. Get ready, Liam shouted. He could feel the vibrations of the pounding, the intensity building. The door rattled, and a heavy thud shook the barricade. Then, with a resounding crash, the door gave way, flying open as the clowns surged into the room. The dim light flickered wildly, casting unsettling shadows as the figures swarmed forward, their eyes wild with frenzy. Stay together, Liam yelled, swinging his metal bar at the nearest clown, making contact and sending it sprawling. But the sheer number of clowns was overwhelming, each one a grotesque caricature of laughter and malice. Mia and Sarah had joined them, wielding whatever they could find, chairs, tools, anything to defend themselves. They fought valiantly, but the clowns were relentless, laughing maniacally as they swarmed. Back! Get back! Liam shouted, trying to push them away. But as they fought, the laughter grew louder, echoing in their minds, filling them with a deep, gnawing dread. Suddenly, Detective Harris appeared, his painted smile widening. You can't win. You're just prolonging the inevitable. Shut up, Jake yelled, swinging the crowbar at him, but the clown dodged effortlessly. We'll never give in to you. Is that so? Harris cackled. Let's see how long you can hold on. The group pressed against the wall, trying to fend off the onslaught. But as the clowns pushed in, they realized they were outnumbered, trapped in a nightmare of their own making. Liam, Sarah cried, panic flooding her voice. We can't hold them back. We have to find a way out, he shouted, searching desperately for an escape. The windows were barred, the back exit blocked by more clowns. They were encircled. Then, just as hope seemed lost, A loud bang echoed from the front of the building. The sound of sirens filled the air, and the clowns hesitated, their laughter momentarily quieting. "Help is here," Mia shouted, hope flickering in her heart. But as they turned toward the noise, Harris let out a chilling laugh. "You think they can save you? They're already too late." Liam's heart sank as he looked toward the door. The police would be there any moment, but something in Harris's voice sent shivers down his spine. "Now!" Harris yelled, and with that command the clowns surged forward, breaking through the last line of defense. The group was thrown into chaos, clowns clawing and laughing, their painted faces twisted with glee. "Fight! Keep fighting!" Liam shouted, trying to rally his friends. But in the frenzy, it became impossible to keep track of who was where. Shadows and laughter swallowed them whole. Suddenly, Jake was pulled back, his scream piercing the air as a clown dragged him into the swirling madness. "No! Jake!" Liam yelled, lunging toward him, but it was too late. The remaining friends fought back, swinging wildly, but the clowns were everywhere. They felt the weight of despair closing in, the nightmare consuming them as the sound of sirens grew fainter. "Liam, we can't!" Sarah cried, her voice filled with terror as a clown grabbed her from behind, dragging her away. "No!" he shouted, but he was overwhelmed. Clowns descended upon him, their laughter rising in a crescendo that drowned out everything else. In that moment, surrounded by chaos, a terrible realization hit him. There would be no escape. The clowns were not just monsters. They were an embodiment of fear and despair, and they thrived on the hopelessness that filled the air. As the darkness closed in, Liam could see Mia struggling against two clowns, her flashlight flickering in her grasp. "Liam!" she screamed, but her voice was lost in the madness. Then the world erupted in a flash of chaos, clowns cackling, friends screaming, the sense of futility engulfing him. It was as if the night itself had come alive, closing in, tightening its grip. Just as everything felt like it was slipping away, the last shred of hope flickered. He lunged for Mia, but the clowns were too strong. They pulled her away, laughter echoing in his ears as darkness swallowed them. In that final moment, as the laughter rose to a deafening pitch, Liam realized the truth. They had become part of the twisted game. And as the clowns danced around him, their painted faces smiling grotesquely, he understood that there would be no rescue, no escape from this nightmare. The last sound he heard was the unending laughter of the clowns as the world faded to black, leaving behind nothing but echoes of despair. The storm raged on outside, but inside the community center, the nightmare had only just begun. The clowns had claimed their prey, and the town would never be the same again.